Good morning, folks, and welcome to my studio. My name is Matthew Palmer, and I'm here today with Search Press. I'm going to paint a watercolour scene with you over the next sort of 45 minutes, something like that. So please do stick with me. And the hay fever's kicking in today, so please do bear with me. Any questions, pop them in the comments in the chat, folks. We'll try to reply to them. So I'm here with Search Press. Now I've been working with these guys, Search Press, since about 2012, so quite a while now, and I've published 5 books with Search Press. And I just want to quickly mention those two before we start painting this beautiful animal. We're painting animals today, animals in watercolour, of course. Let's take a quick look at the latest book that we've got out with Search Press. Here we've got this one called Watercolour Mountains. Now this book actually came out, it was sort of the back end of last year. Now this kind of links in nicely with what we're talking about today, because today we're painting with just 3 colours and 3 brushes. We'll talk about the materials in a second or two for those people that want to have a go at this maybe later, or possibly even paint along in a few minutes. Okay, so what we've got, Watercolour Mountains, is part of the Search Press Take 3 Colours range. Now Take 3 Colours is a great concept because it uses 3 colours, 3 brushes, which is exactly what we're going to do here on this beautiful painting of this grey tit on a tap. You get 9 paintings in this book, and please do head over to the Search Press website for purchasing these books, and you can see that it's in the classic Search Press style. Everything is beautifully step by step for you, so you really can't go wrong with it, folks. You've got gorgeous lake scenes, mountainous scenes. Look at this beautiful alpine scene here. Nice little book, folks. That's my latest one, Watercolour Mountains. Here we've got something I'm really proud of. This took a lot of time to put together. This is Matthew Palmer's step-by-step guide to watercolours here, with this beautiful scene of New York on the front. Now this particular book was published probably a couple of years ago now, and the first half of the book is very much an essential work through, a watercolour companion, let's call it. What you've got here is all the essentials: painting skies, how to paint things like rocks and trees, all those important things that you need to put into your watercolour painting. Excuse me, hay fever. And then the later half of the book, you get these wonderful projects, which has got all your beautiful step-by-steps here. You've got this gorgeous kind of poppy field here, and then you've got all these wonderful scenes. Again, every little stage, as always, Search Press are famous for this, beautifully photographed and detailed for you. There's actually 6 beautiful watercolours, from seascapes all the way through to winter scenes. My favourite one is these gorgeous New York Central Park scenes here, again all in detail. What you've also got with this book, folks, which makes it really special, is these fold out tracings, which are the exact size of a 1/4 imperial sheet of watercolour paper. So beautiful book, folks. Please do have a look online for Matthew Palmer's step-by-step guide to watercolour painting. Beautiful book, really proud of that one. And then very quickly before we start painting, we also have Painting Without Paint here, folks, which is learning how to paint using a tablet or an iPad. So check that one out for me, please check that one out as well. And of course, the bestseller, which if I'm right in saying might be out of stock at the minute, is the Watercolour for the Absolute Beginner. This is a best-selling book, folks. It's been #1 on Amazon for ages and ages. Very popular book. Please check that out as well. So today, it's all about painting a bird in watercolours, okay? I want to talk about materials. I just want to show you the actual sketch. So if anybody wants to actually paint along with me or have a go back at this at a later stage, this is the sketch. It's there for you to enjoy, okay? So please do have a look at this. I'll leave that on the screen for a couple of minutes just while I'm talking through some of the materials, okay? So it's a very straightforward sketch. It's a bird perched on the top of an old brass kind of outdoor tap, and we're going to paint this actually as a grey tit, okay? So it should be quite enjoyable. Just to quickly mention, while I leave that on the screen, a little bit about materials for this particular picture. Keeping it simple, like the book I mentioned on Watercolour Mountains, we're literally just going to be using 3 colours all the way through, 3 colours all the way through. So we've got some kind of a bright yellow, I'm just going to quickly show you the palette. Just because I just want to sort of mention a little bit about the actual colours, what I'm going to be using. And what we've actually got here is actually 3 colours, and I'll pop the sketch back on in a second for you, okay? So we've got a yellow, a blue and a red. Now it doesn't really matter which three of these you use, to be fair, as long as it's three primary colours. This particular case I'm using natural yellow light, natural blue and natural red, but equally you could use cadmium yellow, or you could use gamboge or aureolin. It wouldn't really matter which yellow you use, just three colours. We've got blue here, this one's natural blue. You could use French ultramarine, you could use cobalt blue, and then here we've got natural red, but you could use alizarin crimson or even rose madder. Just three primary colours, okay? Again, it's all about keeping things nice and simple. Brushes wise, pretty much just these three, to be honest. Three brushes here. We've got a large brush of some kind. This particular one is a 16 or a 20, doesn't really matter which one. Here we've got this brush which is a size 10 or a 12, again doesn't really matter which size you use. And here we've got a 6 brush. It could be a 5, could be a 6, this could be a 10 or a 12, could be a 16 or a 20. And that's pretty much all the colours that you need to do this. So again, there's the sketch, folks. If you're watching this back later, pause it, get it sketched in, have a go at this yourself. It's a nice, straightforward scene to do. While I'm leaving that on the screen for a few seconds, I'm just going to squirt in a few of those colours into my actual palette here. And there's no right or wrong with the amount, and I'm literally using tube watercolour. But it doesn't have to be tube, it could be the little sort of pans, little full pans, or this half pans of watercolour. Three primary colours is all I need for this. Plenty of water, plenty of kitchen roll. People often ask me about the actual paper that I'm using. The actual paper that I'm using is actually, it's my own personal brand of paper. This is called Matthew Palmer paper, but it's just a nice quality watercolour paper. It doesn't matter whether it's a cotton paper or wood-based paper, just a good quality sheet of quarter imperial. If you're watching this in other parts of the world, you're not sure what quarter imperial is, it might it's a little bit smaller than A3. It's about 11 inch by 15 inch roughly. I've stuck it to a board, as you can see here, so it's ready to go. I mean, and that could be a bit of stiff cardboard, to be fair. You don't need to worry about easels and that kind of thing, really not essential. We've got some water here, we've got some kitchen roll. We're pretty much ready for action, folks. So my first thing I want to do on this, I want to get close in and I want to get a nice background on this. Pencil is just a 2B pencil, just a standard issue pencil. Let's get nice and close into the sketch here, folks, so we can see what we've got here. Got that ugly mug there. Let's get nice and close in here. Again, any questions, pop them in the comments. We'll try as best to answer them as we go along, folks, for you, okay? So, large brush, and you can see here that I've squirted the yellow. This is the bright yellow, natural yellow, or cad yellow or something. This is the blue, natural or ultramarine or something similar, and this kind of crimson red. So those three colours, and I'll keep showing you the palette as I progress through the actual painting. We've got a big brush here, and it really is a simple case of just going for this. So first of all, using the large brush here, we're going to be popping the water all the way down, straight over everything. Literally just wet the entire sheet of paper. My advice to you is wet it a couple of times, okay? This is what we call wetting to wet, which is just a simple way of creating a nice kind of vignette. We're talking vignettes here, folks. Soft, beautiful backgrounds. That's always what I'm interested in when it comes to a watercolour painting like this, okay? It's just a way of giving a little bit extra, and it just means that you can create these wonderful kind of soft backgrounds, basically. A nice kind of soft vignette means we're not going to go all the way to the edge, basically. Some people call them vinaigrettes. I'm going to paint a vinaigrette today. Anyone fancy painting a vinaigrette? Can't go wrong, can you? Plenty of water. So this is kind of my second coat of water. So it's going to go a little bit wavy as well. So that's got a nice background coverage. I'm going to mix the colours as I go along. If you're painting this yourself, it's not a bad idea to watch it first and watch it back and have a go. You can't go wrong. So basically, get yourself into the habit of sort of wiping off the excess water before you do your colours, okay? That's always something to suggest here. I'm going to mix a bit of a green, basically. So I'm going to take some yellow, some of the bright yellow, pop a little bit of blue with it, keeping these colours relatively clean and soft at this particular stage. So this is very much going to be the background of this thing here. So Just imagine some out of focus foliage, that kind of thing. And then I'm also just going to lay the brush flat to the paper and twist it in. This is very pale, and it wants to be. And I want to avoid the bird. It's basically flat to the paper and twisting. That's all it is. It's just creating a softness, a soft faded edge. Working around here. I can pop a little bit of green over the bird's wing because there's a touch just over the edge of a tit on a tap, which is what we're going to call this. I'm going to work that in. And I'm then going to change colours by cleaning my brush. Don't forget to wipe off the excess. Let's pop some more yellow with this so we're getting a much brighter colour. Let's bring some yellow into this as well. It's useful to dab off on tissue so you're not too sort of runny with your paint. So a little bit of yellow is going to come through here as well. It's just nice just to work in some softness, and literally I'm leaving this edge so it fades in, and this is just incidental background stuff. What could possibly go wrong? You can't fail, can you? And this is just working in that background. Again, if you take a quick look at the sketch again, you can see that I'm literally, it's not right to the edge of the paper. So just have a little think about that before you sketch this thing in. Give yourself some space to pop in this beautiful watercolour background. Nice. I'm just going to pop some branches in out of focus. So I want to zoom a little bit closer in, folks, as well, so we can see this thing nice and close. There we go. I'm going to grab the size 6 brush. The round 6 brush. I want to mix a bit of a brown colour here, okay? Again, I'm just using primary colours, remember that. So to get a brown, you want to mix an orange first, so yellow and red. Can't go wrong with that, can you? Watch out for the red because it's very vicious. It's a strong red, is crimson or natural red. And then a little bit of blue just goes into this, and you'll see the colour starts to go more towards a brown. If you keep adding blue to this, it'll go grey, and we'll get to greys a little bit later on, okay? Again, if anyone's got any of my books, my Search Press books, folks, there's lots of information about colour mixing, loads of it. It makes such a difference getting the right colours. Working with primary colours is a beautiful thing to do. I'm going to wipe off the excess on the tissue. So I've got what we call a dry brush at this point, okay? So we've got a dry brush. We want to get nice and close in here. And basically, we're just going to pop in some very soft, wispy, like an explosion of foliage, little sort of branches. This thing's very dry, and literally this is kind of out of focus twigs and branches, and pop a few little sort of dots and spots around. And if you really want to push the boat out, branch out should I say, live life to the edge, what you could do here is actually bring in a few little bits of splatter. Let's get close in again here. The paper's still damp. I'm going to pick up the colour again, wipe most of it off. Take your favourite splattering finger and give it some of this business, and literally just tap it. There's a tap, no pun intended I suppose. We're going to give it a bit of a tap there and just let it sort of explode a little bit. It just gives random background. Every artist loves a good splatter. There's nothing more satisfying than splattering. But you've got to be careful. If you've got a sky, don't splatter your sky. As your mother always told you, make sure you protect it before you splatter. Cover your sky up. Did I really say that? So we're going to give that a bit of a splatter. Beautiful, beautiful thing to do, folks. That is my background. My background's in. I'm happy with that. That needs a bit of time to dry. So we'll come back a little bit here. And I want to give this a quick blast with a hairdryer, folks. But to keep you entertained, you can have a look at some paintings at the back here. We've got a beautiful scene of the Flying Scotsman here, and we've got this kind of, there's another vinaigrette, another watercolour vignette for you. And if you've got bored with that, while it's drying off, this paper takes a while to dry. Here's a painting I've just recently done of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Oh, and the Kingfisher. Keep you entertained. This is like watching paint dry, this. There we are, folks, we're nice and dry at that particular point there, so we'll just zoom back on that a sec and we'll have a little look here. So let's just pop this over here. So we're nice and dry, and the paper will go flat when it's dry. That's always important to mention, so just bear that in mind. And we're going to literally paint in the bird. That's a bit of local Derbyshire, we're gonna paint in the bird. Let's get close in here. There we go, all sketched in, ready to go. So again, someone's just mentioned if we could possibly show the sketch. There's the sketch. So I'm just going to paint the bird now. We're going to build it through, and please do, this is a very important thing to mention about watercolour painting. You really need to be sticking with us through to the end, because what's important is that you see the end result, and that's never more so than painting, because it goes through stages of looking nonsense to looking good to looking negative. So please do kind of watch it right through to the end, because it changes every second. You know that, don't you? Yeah. So please do kind of, you know, bear with it, see it through. We're doing lots of virtual painting workshops at the minute. I've popped a link in the description in the post, so if you're interested, I've got on this Sunday the 17th. We're painting a windmill flower meadow. Have a little look. Head over to my Facebook page as well for those who are interested. And you've got to see it through. You've got to go right through to the end. That is quite an important thing to mention. I've got a large brush. I've got a size 10 brush here, and what I'm going to do here, folks, I'm going to paint in the yellows on the bird first, nice and rich with the colour. So let's get a rich heavy yellow, and I can actually use this paint very strong. I'm taking a nice rich heavy natural yellow, or it could be cad yellow, cadmium yellow, or it could be something similar, just any bright yellow. Try and avoid yellow ochres and Naples yellows, because they're not quite the right kind of tone for this. So basically working this through. So very thick paint, dry paper, size 10 brush. I'm going to bring that across. I'm going to bring it down here as well. You can decide what birds you want to paint. You could paint a robin on a tap at Christmas, yeah? Or you could paint a bearded chuff, maybe, if you know what they are. Sure some of you do. Personally, I've never seen a bearded chuff, but I know they do exist. There we go. I'll just increase the colour a little bit so it looks a little bit brighter for you. I'm just going to work that down here. Basically, this is going to come right through. Now, this is thick yellow. Now, yellows are one of the few colours that you can actually work very heavy with. So don't be afraid to use the colour quite heavy. Bring it right down to the base of the bird, nice and rich with the paint. We're going to bring this right over. I'm going to take it over the over the kind of collar there, let's say, and then we'll bring this right back here. Clean brush. I'm going to clean the brush. Just use water. Derbyshire water is the best in the country, apparently. Just don't drink it. A couple of taps on the tissue, and then I'm just going to use a little bit of water here just to lightly drag this paint and make sure it all nicely blends. So I'm basically softening and dragging here, okay? Moving the paint back towards the tail. So I'm dragging the rich, and notice how all of a sudden we're getting a lovely vibrancy coming through. Again, that's another advantage of using primary colours, especially yellows, because they really do have a wonderful richness about them, a nice kind of vibrancy about them. As soon as you connect water with strong colours, it just kind of all makes sense, really. So just dragging it back here so it kind of fades back into the distance and towards the head as well. Now I'm just going to use this brush very damp here, so I'm just making sure it's not too wet when I do that, and just lightly tickling the top edge of this thing as well. So it's just ever so slightly feathering, again, no pun intended, just on the edge, so you get that little bit of softness. Can't go wrong. Clean brush. Let's go for some blue next, because it's a grey tip, it's got a blue wing. We're going to bring that into play. Let's just make sure that little bit of paint softens over here on this kind of top wing. Nice. It'll grow on you, folks. Nice bit of colour. Let's take some natural blue. If you've not got natural blue, it could be ultramarine blue, it could be cobalt blue. Try and avoid phthalo and Prussian blues, and even cerulean blues, because they're a little bit not quite a primary blue to me. This is a lovely clean blue, natural blue. All the products we're using are available on watercolour.tv as well, if you're of interest. So we're going to bring this in, this blue now. We're going to work right back from the tail feather, still sticking with the same brush, the size 10 brush. We're going to pop the back wing of this thing on. And we're going to bring this right down. So it starts to creep down towards the base. Nice vibrant blue. It goes along the edge of the wing here, down here as well. This is probably not as rich in consistency as the yellow was. Now this goes right over here towards this wing. Now what really makes this picture work is when you bring in the shadows into these wings. So stick with us, folks. Remember, it's so important to see these projects through to the end, because they make such a difference. Clean brush on the tissue here. If anyone wants this tissue as a souvenir of the day, please do get in touch. You can put your name and address on a stamped addressed envelope. Do they still exist? Stamped addressed envelopes. Do people still use them? Maybe. Stamped addressed envelope. They don't even know what I'm talking about. There you go. Now if you want to find a reference photograph of a grey tip, have a look online, but just make sure you put the word great before you do the search, otherwise you might get some problems. And have a little look, and you can find reference photographs. But of course, if you do use reference photographs, please make sure you get permission from the photographer, or you get a royalty-free image to work to. But there's plenty of images out there, of course, of feathered birds. Said feathered in there, didn't we? So can you see that we're kind of blending this into the yellow? It all kind of starts to mix a little bit. Can't go wrong. Can't fail. Just looking back here, and it's important at this stage that you're looking at how the paint actually blends in as well, and it is blending quite nicely at that particular point, so that's working lovely there, so marvellous. Welcome to everybody who's watching this through the Search Press Facebook page. That's the Search Press Art and Crafts Book Facebook page, and welcome to everyone that's watching through my page as well, Matthew Palmer Artist. Hello to everybody out there. Hope you're keeping well and fit and everything like that. And doing the distance thing. Just going to change brushes now for a number 6 brush. Going to pop in the head of the bird, then we're going to come down to the tap, and then the last bit of the picture, always the best bit, the most important bit, stick with us, is popping on that detail. That's where things make the most sense. The great thing about this is we can zoom in nice and close here, folks. Let's get close to the bird's head. Now for this we need to be using a grey, a strong grey. Now obviously we've got primary colours, red, yellow, blue, we've mentioned that throughout. So how do you create a grey? How do you make a grey from primary colours? Well, what you do is you mix a purple and pop a bit of yellow with it. You can buy ready-made greys like my own grey called natural grey. But I'm not going to use that today, folks. I'm sticking with 3 colours. So I want to show you how to mix a perfect grey. Lots of people have this thing about using Payne's grey. It's fine as a colour, but not for shadows, not for dark areas. For me, Payne's grey is a little bit too dark, so just be a little bit cautious about using paint that contains black, and Payne's grey does contain black, so that's something to watch out for. Let's take a big chunk of blue, and this colour wants to be quite heavy, so a tiny bit of water. So I'm putting a big thick blob of blue in there for you. Nice and rich with these colours. Tiny bit of the red. Now watch the red because it is quite strong, and you can see it starts to go a little bit on the purple side, like a violet kind of purple. Now once you get that, it's a case of bringing in yellow. Excuse me, hay fever again, and then you're going to start to see the colour. You're gonna see it. It's going to start to turn grey, and there's the darkness coming through. The more yellow, the darker it seems to go. You've got to watch out for putting too much red in, because you'll start to get browns at this point, okay? But you can buy natural grey as a ready-made version of this colour. And the reason we sell that is because it's the most popular colour. It's every picture, without question, has a shadow, so it needs it. Payne's grey is a bad shadow colour, or black or anything like that, so just watch out for that. Even neutral tint contains black, so you've got to be a bit cautious on what colours you actually use for this thing. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to paint in the sort of cap of the bird. Again, you can see, can't you, just how rich that colour is. Now I can paint this thing quite freely. I'm going to paint around the eye. Paint around the eye, not into the eye. We're going to work around here. Down the sort of cheek, if that's what you call it. I don't know all the technical names for birds. I'll bring this around here. It kind of creeps down the back a little bit. Now all this is going to get blended in very soon. There's a little piece that creeps around here, comes around the shoulder, and then it comes down here. And actually a grey tit and a blue tit has got a beautiful thin line down the middle of the breast. You can't see it on this with it being in profile, but we can bring a hint of that, gradually tapering off so it almost goes to a point. And again, all this will be feathered in. I know I keep saying the word feathered in. You can blend and you can feather. Feathering is more like a gentle kind of scribble with your brush, whereas a blend is like a smooth transition, like this was a blend here. Whereas what I'm doing in a second or two is going to be more of a feather. The bottom part of the beak is going to be all dark pretty much, and the top part of the beak just got a thin line that goes across it, and all this will become clear. So at the minute it looks a bit of a rough mess, be honest. We're going to clean the brush. Dog's dinner stage. This is what people that are new to painting call the depression wall. You've got to get through that and finish it off, and there's never more so a time to see that when you're doing workshops. And like I said, over the past couple of months, in fact almost 2.5 months now, I've been teaching virtual workshops, going really well. Details in the post, folks, if anyone's interested. We do have one on Sunday, and it's a windmill of a flower meadow, so check out that. Painting along in real time, but of course the great thing about these is you can watch them back, these demos and things. So I'm just going to feather the edge now. The brush is almost dry, so if I was blending I would give it a couple of taps because it needs water. If I'm just feathering, I'm just going to sort of dry it off. So the brush is literally damp. This is a 6 brush, size 6 brush, so I can blend this. I can blend blah 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 blah, blend the beak down. And even this little piece on the inside here, look, it's going to slightly tickle the edge. Can you see that? Let's get a bit closer in for you. This is an important little stage here. So you can lightly sort of tickle the edge of this thing. And actually, if I spike the brush with my fingers, I can lightly sort of work over the top of that and just put a bit of texture, because it wouldn't be pure white. I mean, I'm sure you agree on that one. So that's just a way of creating that. Now the eye. How do we paint the eye? Same colour, rich colour. Let's get close into the eye. There you go. The eye is going to be like a pizza with a slice missing. Now, you need something fine for doing this. If your 6 brush is not fine, then you've got the option of using something maybe like a detail brush or a rigger brush or something, if you've got one, of course. Now it's like a backwards C shape, so I'm going to get in there. I'm just going to leave that little bit of a highlight. That's quite important that we leave that little bit of white. Can you see the eye there? It's enough to give it. It's like a backwards C shape. What could possibly go wrong? Now birds have nostrils, believe it or not, so they can smell the worms. We'll pop that in. Beautiful. Now I'm going to continue with that colour for a few minutes, folks, but I'm just going to come back here. We can see it taking shape. It's getting there. Anticipation is half the fun. It's the best bit. Let's have a look down at the tab. We've got the ticks. We've got to paint a tab. We're going to put a wash of colour over the tab, and then we're going to build up the shadows. Please stick with me, folks. It's never been so important. Watercolour, any art form, whether it's acrylics, gouache, or goulash as some people call it, you've got to finish it off. You've got to continue the picture excuse me, until you finish it, because it never happens until you get to the end, the big climax. Let's take a look at a kind of brass colour. So So here we've got the yellow. This is the yellow that we used for the bird a minute ago. So it's basically a rich, well it was yellow. Someone's invaded my palette. Take a bit of yellow from the side. People often ask me about these palettes. This is my own designer palette. These are available to purchase online, believe it or not, and that's the place to get them from. We're going to take the yellow, we're going to pop a little bit of red with it. So you get that slight orange. Now that's way too much red, way too much red. So we'll come back to the yellow. So it's more like an orange. There you go, more like an orange. And then if you've got a bit of this grey hanging around, or even a bit of this brown from earlier, take a bit of that and pop it over the top of the orange. So it goes almost like a sandy colour. And then we're going to dilute it a touch. There you go. So we've diluted it. Now that to me looks like a bit of a coppery sort of sandy colour, yeah? Bit of a sandy colour. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take this colour and literally put a complete wash. Your life will be complete after this, because you will then know not only how to paint birds, but how to paint a tap. What more? It's like that little thing that's been missing from your life. It's right here, painting a tap with a tit on it. What we're going to do is we're going to bring this in, grate it on a tap. Let's bring this through here. We're going to work as a solid colour. You can see that kind of soft colour. Great colour for sandstone beaches as well. This is going to go in here. All the shadows will be added to this later. That's the beauty, folks, of watercolour. Watercolour is all about transparent layers, and that's exactly what's happening here. So it's going in as a colour, and then a wee bit later, once it's all dry, I'm just going to rotate the board a bit. Exciting bit. Just going to turn it over. Wait for this for excitement. If you think that's exciting, that's even more exciting. We're upside down here now, folks. I'm going to bring this thing round. I'm going to sweep it through and then pop it back this way. I can imagine you all sat watching, tilting your head. This is like watching paint dry, this bit. I'm going to bring it down. Pop the little sort of drop. Let's rotate it this way again. Stick with me, folks. You can smell the fear. Bring this down. And then this bottom section kind of fades off into the vignette. A couple of taps on the tissue. I'm just going to basically let that just fade down, so it just goes off the bottom of the scene. Now if you get any little marks like this, you can use a damp brush to smooth them back in again. It's all part of the character. I'll come back to the tap in a few seconds once it's dry. We're going to shoot back up to the bird now here. There he is, or she, I don't know. How do you tell the difference between the grey tits? You tell me. Just having a quick drink of water. Pushing the boat out today because we've got, I'll not show you the name, but this is posh water, look. Not from the tap. No expense spared when we're doing stuff for Search Press. What we're going to do here is pop some shadows in, folks. We've got the grey again. It's still in the palette. Still nice and thick. You can see that beautiful colour. If your paint starts to dry like this brown has here, just pop a little bit of water with it, and then you're kind of cooking on gas. But we've got this thick grey. Dampness will always reactivate paint. Just does it. Close into the bird here. Loving the head. We're going to put some shadows in, okay? And the most important one at this stage for me is the one that goes down the back of the tail feather or feathers, and it's going to come down here. Look how rich that paint is. It goes into the wing a little bit here, swings back like a little bit of a sort of number 2 kind of shape, and then that comes right over. Clean brush. We'll give it a couple of taps on this piece of tissue. I get through a lot of kitchen roll or paper towel when we're painting. When all the world chaos started and people were panic buying toilet roll, I'll panic buying kitchen paper because it's more important for an artist. Got a year's supply. Not really, we've got about 3 rolls. I'm just going to soften this down. I'm going to work it into the yellow, blending it down with a damp brush. This was a couple of taps on the tissue. We can also just pop a few extra little bits and bobs in there. But what's important here is that we smooth that grey. And look how we've created depth under that wing. And that was important. If we'd used the wrong grey for that, it wouldn't have worked. We're going to pop in some little bits down the back here as well. Just a couple. There's one there as well. Look. Little L shapes, I guess you could say. I'm also, while I'm close in here, if I was just going to come down so you can see the legs. Now, if you've done your research on birds, you'll know. When I say research, I mean if you've ever watched Jurassic Park, you'll know that birds' legs are like reptile, because apparently these things are related to velociraptors. According to Mr. Spielberg and people. We're going to bring this down here. I'm going to make this look a little bit bobbly down here as well, and also down that side, down the back of this leg, so basically down the left sort of side. Bring it across here. Clean brush. We'll give it a good 3 or 4, 6 or 7 wipes on the tissue, and then we'll come back to where we started. We're going to blend that grey. Now, because the grey's thick and heavy, it's quite easy to drag it. If it was thin diluted watercolour, you'd find it much harder to move once it's dry. But thick paint is like taking the paint straight from the palette, so it's quite easy to reactivate. And I'm basically blending these over, and then I can start to work them into the bird as well. And basically, the brush is pretty much dry at this particular point. There it is. Can't go wrong with that. So we've got a couple of legs going in. Clean brush again. Slight little bit of a tickle on the edge, so a little bit of softness going off. Excellent. And then what we're going to do here is take a look at the top of the bird while we're close in it, and there's a lovely sort of top section on the wing of a bird, and it kind of goes into a little bit of a V shape, a pointy shape, and then it kind of comes down here. It's the top part of the wing. And again, it's all about blending this paint in. So you clean your brush, you get your tissue, you give it your 3 or 4 taps, and then you pull it back like so. So again, it blends in. And then you can just go in and pop some little drags coming into that. And again, it's the shadows that make it every time, never fails. When I teach classes and workshops, I spend a lot of the time just walking around and putting shadows in people's pictures, darkness that they've missed, you know. Pop some of these little sort of L shapes on the back of the wing there, clean brush tissue again. Drag that into the blue, can't beat a bit of blue, pop it in there. So it disappears off to nothing. I'm just about at the end of my grey, so I'm just basically going to mix up some more grey. It's getting towards that stage where it's getting a little bit weak now. You see it's got a slight purple tinge, but you can combat that by popping a bit of extra yellow. But that purple tinge does not show here. That's the thing about watercolours. Slight dry brush at this point. So a dry brush is the opposite of a wet brush. Wipe it off, and then actually pinch your brush spiky. Can you see the sort of spiky brush? Let's take a moment to enjoy the spiky brush. Look at that. That's a beautiful shot there. Look at that. Look at the depth of field in that shot there, folks. You can just see every little bristle there. I think I'm on shopping TV now, don't I? We're going to use that. And what we're going to do here, we're going to get close in to the bird, so we can add some feather. Practice this one. I call these skid marks. You can call them what you like. I'm just going to bring it down here. And this is how you create shape. Can you see that nice, beautiful texture? Let's get even closer in there. Can you see? This is why we use a knot surface or a rough surface watercolour paper, because it gives us this gorgeous texture. Okay? And this is exactly what's happening here. It's creating texture, and we're dragging this thing around here. And we're feathering it in. Giving it a feather. Can you see that beautiful texture? And of course, I shall do exactly the same thing on the back of the bird as well. We're going to create this lovely feathery effect over here as well. Be nice. Can't go wrong with that, can you? That nice kind of texture coming through. Beautiful, yeah? does make a difference. Every little helps. I've always said that with painting for all these years. I've been teaching painting since the late 90s. I started doing local classes in 1997, 98. And for the past, since about 2003, 2002, I've been a full-time teaching artist. So we shall come back to the bird, folks, for the last little bit, which makes the difference. So stick with me. But we need to put some shadows into the tap. Yes, we're back to the tap again. We're going to use the same grey, you know, the 3 primary colours. If you've just joined us on this picture, just to let you know that I am just using 3 colours here. 3 primary colours. These are Matthew Palmer's own colours, natural colours. You've got yellow light, blue and red, natural blue, natural yellow light. But you could use ultramarine cobalt, you could use cadmium yellow, aureolin, gamboge. You could use alizarin crimson, natural red, or even if you wanted to use cad red, but it'd be slightly different. But you could do it. Brushes, I've just been using 3. And really, the big brush, this one, the 20 brush, was only used for the background. It was pretty much these two, a 10 and a 6 for that. So I'm using the grey here, and I'm using the grey to actually paint the shadows. It's exactly the same grey I used in the bird, so the rich, heavy colours. I want to show you this close up, because if you are going to have a go at this yourself at some point, you need to have a look at these shadows, basically. So if we start at the top here, we're going to paint in a bit of an L shape, which goes along here. Now I've got a book that is coming out soon. It's about 90% complete, and it is published by Search Press, of course, in their classic way, and it's watercolour animals. Okay, watercolour animals. I think you can possibly pre-order it. I don't want to say for sure, but there's 30, 32, 33 paintings of animals in it. We pretty much wrote the book last year, so that will be out at some point in the near future. So please do check that out, folks. Have a little look around for it. It's part of the 30-minute series that Search Press do, and it's basically, it's got over 30 projects of painting animals, from flamingos to your kind of lions and tigers. Domestic cats and dogs are in there as well. So it's a beautiful thing to do, folks, and I put a lot of time into that one, so you'll see that at some point soon coming up. I'm going to wipe it off on the tissue. I'm going to come back to that first grey, and we're going to soften this in. So just imagine what I've just painted there is kind of the back of the tap. Again, softening and blending and dragging here. Excuse me. We're going to work that in. Smooth it around. So as soon as you blend it away, it sort of disappears into the tap, you see. Pushes it back onto it. Again, because I'm using the right grey, natural grey, really. Over here, we're going to pop a shadow in as well. This is quite a rich shadow coming around this corner. Take it up, sweep it over, a couple of taps on the tissue. And we're going to bring this through here. So you can see how that's blending in, can't you? So we're starting to create the shape of the tap. I will come back to that and pop one really important little bit in a sec. I want to bring some darkness into this tap. We're going to go dark down here. I'm going to go dark under there. Dark down here as well. So I'm adding the proper shadows. Now because, excuse me, this is really bad hay fever this morning. This is like a curved area, so we'll do a curved shadow. And we'll soften those in a sec. We're going to pop in this line here as well, and then also we're going to bring a shadow down at the bottom. Again, a little bit curvy. Clean brush, couple of taps on this tissue. It's kind of dropping to bits at this point. I'm just going to use a bit of water. I'm going to blend it all in. So again, watercolour, very easy to soften, move and blend. You can't really go wrong with it, to be honest. Beautiful way of working. Softening it. You could come back to this colour in a couple of years time and it'd still be workable, believe it or not. Whereas oils, acrylics and everything, once they dry, they dry. With watercolour you can sort of not fiddle, you can wait for it, you can titivate. Get it? I'm waiting for a response, I don't know why. But anyway, we'll soften it in. Give it a blend. Let's come back to that first bit at the top then, because there's one really important shadow that I've not popped in yet, and I want to paint it in now. And it's the one that makes this piece kind of shoot forward here, okay? It's like an L shape actually, so it's a line that comes down here, and it kind of goes over on a curve, and then it follows that edge. Now, that needs a bit of a blend again, water on the tissue there. When you woke up this morning, you never thought for 1 second you'd be sat with a cup of coffee or something else, enjoying somebody paint a tap, did you? I'm going to work this through. If you like my kind of painting, folks, please do head over to Watercolour TV. There's the little ad in the corner. That's the place where I've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of video on demand. Loads and loads and loads of video on demand, folks. It's all there for you to enjoy. There's over 12 years. It's the original video on demand service. I started it in 2008, and there's 12 years worth of videos on there. And for a subscription fee, you can enjoy unlimited access to all those watercolour videos. Now here, I want to pop in a shadow under the claw. So I want to get close in now to this part of the top. Look at that. You can see every little bit of rust. We're going to bring that little bit of shadow on there, just here as well. And that's the little sort of ceramic dome on the top of these taps. And if you've seen them, you'll know what I mean by that. While I'm doing this, folks, I just want to quickly mention actually on Facebook on the 24th and 25th of May, myself and 5 other artists are doing something called the Art Demo Day. Artists Demo Day. Please do head over, do a quick search on Facebook for Artists Demo Day, and it's 2 days of free watercolor, acrylic, pastels, all the different mediums. 6 artists involved in this, and it's on the 24th and 25th, all the way through the day. 3 demos per day. Artist Demo Days. Have a look. And at the same time as you're doing that, folks, make sure you hit like or you follow the Search Press Art and Craft Books Facebook page. And one more little link for you, folks. Matthew Palmer Artist. Please do head over to Matthew Palmer Artist, because lots of free videos and lessons on there as well, and everything I'm up to, from writing the next book etc. with Search Press, or you know, doing whatever, demos, workshops, lessons, it's all there. Matthew Palmer Artist. If you don't mind, that would be very much appreciated. I've also got a YouTube channel, so Matthew Palmer Artist. No, sorry, just Matthew Palmer actually for that one. So, while I'm close in, let's take that real rich grey again. Now I do need to remix the grey if I'm honest, so I want to sort of go again. So we've got the blue, the red, and the yellow, and eventually, of course, as we said, it'll turn. It starts to turn into a nice rich darkness, because it's the last little bits on the bird now which are going to make the biggest difference. You can see that nice rich darkness that we're creating. Look at that. Like reading the tea leaves, you could do a fortune reading from that. Nice rich bit of colour. Look how thick the paint is. If you do that, it's not dripping. This is risky. Let's pop in a nice strong colour here for the claws. This is the darkest colour that I've used. This is proper thick stuff. Now again, folks, if your brush is not as fine as this one, because this is a relatively new brush, you can see how pointy it is. Just use something finer like a rigger brush. A rigger being a long pointy brush, of course. There you go, so I've got those couple of claws in there. And then I'm actually going to use this brush slightly dry again. See, I'm down to that now, look. Times are hard, look at that. I'm just going to pop in some little rings and little bits of character over the top of the bird's feet. Back to Jurassic Park again, of course. Pottering around here. Nice, it's good. Loving the dark claws here, that really makes quite a difference to that. Now let's take a look back what we've got so far, folks. We've kind of got the scene here, it's doing its job. We've got a picture, but there's the all important finishing touches. This is it, folks. this is the exciting bit. Look, I've got goosebumps. You see? This is the bit that really kind of does it for me. And it's putting some light, some extra dark in, and some extra little bits of detail. Extra bits of detail, okay? Let's get nice and close in here. Again, folks, if you like my kind of painting, have a little think about getting hold of this, which is the Matthew Palmer Step-by-Step Guide to Watercolours, published by Search Press, of course. So you know it's wonderful, super detail. Every brush stroke is there for you. It's a really thick book, very popular book, and you get all these projects to enjoy. This is the Step-by-Step Guide to Watercolours, folks. Very popular book, and it's available through Search Press. Head over to the Search Press website. I think there's a link actually in the actual comments as well. So have a little gander at that. Right. Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to bring in some highlights, some extra little bits of dark, folks, and these are the bits for me that really make the difference. Okay. So I'm going to put some little shadows down here. Get some real dark going in. Also, just going to pop in a few extra little bits of lines coming into that area, so it almost gives the impression of feathers. Again, quite an enjoyable thing to do there. There's a lovely bit of dark on the wing of a blue and grey tit, just here. Okay, so that's a slightly dry brush, and also here as well. Just ever so lightly swings back, and it's just giving a little bit of extra texture. Okay, that lovely darkness, because mixing a grey from primary colours rather than using like Payne's grey, it's going to give depth, and you can see that for yourself hopefully. Clean the brush, just going to wipe it slightly dry, and then I'm just going to lightly feather that back again. What I want to do now, folks, is I want to get some clean paper towel. There we go. And we are going to have a little look at some highlights in the bird. Okay, so here I've got a square brush. Now you can manage without this, I'll say this to you now, folks. It is my own design of brush. It's called a lift out brush. Okay, it's not essential. You could use the 6 for this, but a few highlights with this brush, it just makes it a little bit easier, but you can use the 6. We're going to clean it, we're going to pinch it through the fingers like so. So it's just damp basically. And I want to lighten the blue edge where the wing sits on the sort of body. Now you could use a 6 for this as well. You're going to wipe it out. Can you see it puts light in it? Taking colour out. Now let's do the same on the tail as well. Let's just pop in a bit of interest in the tail feathers here. Put some light into that. It's quite addictive. You don't see a huge amount of artists putting light in pictures, but I always think it's a lovely thing to do. And lift out, it's been a technique that has been with me pretty much all my painting life, and that's because I've started out painting animals and flowers before I did any landscape painting, and it was lift out was just an important stage. I mean, look how that's brought out that sort of muscular area around the sort of legs or the feet of the bird. Same at the top as well, a few highlights just kind of coming down here into the yellow. It comes off so easy. Again, folks, remember that you could just use a 6 brush for this. It would work. It would take the colour off, but it's just a little bit crisper with a square brush or a lift out brush, but not essential. Get some lovely light on the back of the wing there. Just literally take it and press it. So it's removed those stripes of colour, which you can now see it's given, you know, layers to it. And that same thing would happen, surprisingly, in the tap. If we come down to the tap here, I'm going to put some light and make it look more metallic. So I'm going to lighten this edge here, slightly bring it down there. Again, just press it firmly. Can you see it's just giving that an extra kick forward? Right on the edge here, where you could imagine it's the width of the tap. If I do that highlight, you can see that there, can't you? Really works nice down here as well. Look, pop some highlights in. Lovely way of working. Press it firm. Also down here, anything that's round and metallic has got some kind of lined reflections. Can you see those nice highlights coming down there? It just makes it look polished, don't it? Same here as well. If I lighten this corner here, you can really see how that's giving a lovely, almost a polished kind of feeling to it. Surprising what a difference that actually makes to it. Same here, look, if I lighten that edge, Again, you could use a 6 brush for this. If I lighten that little edge here and so on. Watercolour's great because it lets you remove colour. What a difference that's done. Hopefully you agree, folks. Hopefully you're enjoying this as well. It's better than watching the news. If we look back at the picture, we can see here we've got this wonderful bird sat on a tap. Just a couple of things I want to do in the bird itself just to finish off, folks. So thank you for sticking with us today on the Search Press. Search Press demo. Let's get close in again. Look at that beautiful bird. Just look at the texture we created here, you know. And it all, of course, it all started off life as this pencil sketch. So again, if you're having to go yourself, that's the sketch that we did. That's how we started, and that's kind of what we brought it to. So it's nice to see how it's evolved as a picture. Now, something that's optional is white paint. I always say this, it's an optional extra, it's not essential. I've got my own white. This particular one's called Natural White. All my natural colours have been around for about 12 years now, okay? Natural White's really nice because it's an opaque white. I tend to pop a little bit on a scrap paper, and I'll tell you my reason for this, because I want it fresh, and secondly, I don't want to have white in my palette because I kind of forget it's there, and it mixes with the colours, so I try and avoid using it if I can. And I want to use white on a scrap piece of paper. I'm just going to pop some water next to it with the 6 brush. I'm just going to give it a bit of a wiggle like that. So we've got that nice kind of white. I'll sort of, if you rotate your brush through your fingers, you can actually make your brush go more pointy, because it's nice to pop a crisp edge. Let's get close in for this here. Maybe you forgot to put the light on the edge of the wing here possibly, or maybe you forgot to put the highlight in the eye or something like that. Well, this is a nice way of actually adding a little bit of light, and I'm just going to go in right on this edge and do some little sort of feathery flicks. That's a great phrase, that, feathery flicks. And bring that in just on that edge, just there, look, and it puts a little bit of brightness to it. I'm quite a fan of white paint. I use it quite a lot. In a second or two, I will show you a painting that I've recently done of a kingfisher. A little bit more detailed picture, but I've used a lot of white on that at the end as well. There's a thin highlight of white on the top edge of some of the back feathers on the blue and grey tits, so a little bit of white just here. I'll blend these in a sec, folks. So this is an opaque thick white, just a little bit of water right on the edge. You can see those lines? Makes a difference, don't it? Again, a little bit here as well, just a little touch every so often, just on some of these feathers, even in the tail feather, just a hint of it there, just little bits of white. Clean my brush. I'm going to wipe it pretty much dry at that point, pretty much completely bone dry here, look. Dry brush. I'm just going to go in and just sort of glaze over the top of the white, spread it so it fades to nothing at the end, and I can always drag it down. I did a painting demo yesterday on my YouTube channel. It was a scene of Bamburgh Castle in Northumberland, so go and check out that, folks, on Matthew Palmer on YouTube. And I used a lot of white in the sky to create like a stormy atmosphere, which was quite nice. Bring that over here. Makes a big difference in my opinion. I feel I just want to bring in a little bit of extra feather, a couple of lines just in there. Just going to soften those down. I'm getting towards those nice little last bits that always make the difference. Just going to work those in and touch those lines there. A little bit of texture here and there. Can't go wrong with this. Thanks for sticking with me through this, folks. It's been an enjoyable picture to do. Let's have a look down at the tap here and the claws. Let's come back to the white, and let's just pop a very thin line. Again, you might need to use a finer brush for this, folks. And again, white is optional, so the painting does work without this. But a little bit of white. I mean, that's a bit dry now, but it still works. Just on the edge of those claws. Look how that just makes that little bit pop. Can you see? Get closer in. See that bit of white on the edge? Really fine, but it's really important on that particular picture. Now, if we look back at the whole picture, folks, we can see here, we'll kind of zoom back nice and steady here for you. So you can see all the lovely reflections on the tap, the gorgeous claws, the super background, and of course the bird there. And I want to just quickly show you, there you go, just want to come over here and show you this painting of this kingfisher. If we get closer, I know you can't quite see, if I move the camera, give it a lean, you can kind of see the beautiful colours. But if you look close at that, it's just a very detailed painting. You can see all the lovely white bits I've used in the feathers, and look at that gorgeous eye. So that's my kind of painting, folks, and that's kind of what I like to do. And I just want to show you the close-up of the bird. Loving this picture here. Let's take a close-up look at the bird now. Let's start really close in here, and let's do a very gentle sort of zoom back on it so you can see it. Beautiful. So please do make sure you head over to my Facebook page, Matthew Palmer Artist. If you want to do some painting with me in real time, don't forget there's the workshop on Sunday. But I'm here with Search Press today, folks, and it's been a pleasure as always to work with the wonderful people at Search Press. Have a little think about all the books that we spoke about, folks, which of course is the new edition, the Watercolour Mountains book here. Everything's available online. Oh look, I've got a suntan now for some reason. We've got this gorgeous step-by-step guide to watercolours, folks. Beautiful book. Please check that one out. That's something I'm really proud of. And then, of course, if you want to do something a bit different, Painting Without Paint is all about using iPads and tablets to create wonderful pieces of artwork. So there you go, folks. That's me working with Search Press. So thank you to everybody here. Thank you to Monica for setting this up. I'll see you again soon here for more watercolour painting. Keep safe.